What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Knives of the Round Table, and this time we're gonna be talking Spyderco. And if you've ever been curious about Spyderco and you wanted to, try the brand out, hopefully this will give you some information about maybe which one to get, and I'll give you my thoughts on what the brand does right. I'll give you some information about what I think they could do better. I'll give you what I think is their iconic knife in their lineup. And then at the end, I'll give you my final recommendation if you want to get one, which one I would recommend that you get. But I think Spyderco is a brand that does a lot of things right. So what I want to do is I want to just get the kind of the bad out of the way, and then we can focus on all of the stuff that they do right. And what they, in my opinion, what they do poorly, and this is really just personal, is the aesthetics. I am not crazy about the Spyderco aesthetics. For me, with the Spyderco knives, it's like a tale of two knives. It's like I love the bottom portion of the knife. Okay, if we bisect the knife this way, I love everything below it, and I hate everything above it. Okay, I love the ergonomics. I think they do something really well with that, and I like their cutting edges. But this thing, that hump, I can't stop seeing birds every time, and I just see different kinds of birds, and these are probably considered some of their more neutral knives in the lineup. It's you have knives that are far stranger in the Spyderco lineup. So the aesthetics, the lines of the knife, I think they're their insistence of doing the spider hole, which is kind of their call to arms, right? It's one of the things that is present in most Spydercos, makes it so that you get this hump, and I don't enjoy it. Now, this coming from a guy that has a pretty good amount of Spydercos, but still, I think aesthetics is something that they could do much better. Now, in fairness, when I came into the knife community, I had already the Schliessbui, for instance, had already come and gone. Now, Knife Joy did an exclusive run of the Schliessbui, which is a much more a much it has much better lines. I think it's a more beautiful knife. Or the Nirvana, or some of those that they've discontinued since. I mean, even the Rubicon 2, okay, the carry design, it looks a little bit different from what you see in the other knives. Starting with the fact that it has a flipper tab, which you don't see in a lot of the other Spyderco lineup. But they've kind of stopped doing a lot of those knives, So now you're kind of here. So I think aesthetics, the lines of the knife, is something that I don't particularly care for. But I think they're such good knives that, in spite of that, I have all of these in my collection. So now I want to talk to you about what I think they do right. And I think what Spyderco does better than anybody in the world, and what I think they do, it's not just that they do it better, it's that they do it so much better that nobody's even close to what they can do, is the use of different steels. Okay, and what you see here is 3 Manix 2s, okay? And this one is, I don't know if you can tell, but this one is in Sanmai. There's a line right there. I don't know if you can tell. I'm going to try and shift it a little bit so you can see it, a line right here. And this, because this is a Sanmai type steel. And Sanmai, what it means is that they take a steel with very good edge retention, and then on the sides they put a steel that has a very good toughness. So then you get a little bit of both worlds. You get, you know, the toughness from the exterior layers, and then the edge retention from the center one. And that's why you see the two steels right here. They have CPM 154 on the outside, with the core being S90V. So it's something that you won't see in Benchmates, in Hinderers, in Chris Reed knives. You know, it's something that's kind of unique to Spyderco. Now they did, you know, DLT exclusive. They have the Manix 2 in CPM Crewwear. You know, and again, now Crewwear has been used by some other people, but what Spyderco does is they do all of them. It's not like, you know, Benchmade did the Mini Adamas in Crewwear, right? But you can only get the Mini Adamas in Crewwear. Now, if you want a Manix 2 in basically whatever steel you want, you can find it. This one is the St. Nick's knife exclusive in 4V. Now, there aren't a lot of companies that are using, you know, 4V for their steels. And these are just 3 examples of that. So I think their willingness to explore, you know, the Manix 2 you can find in just such a large range of steels, that I think that's what the company does the best. If you want to try out a new steel, chances are your opportunity is going to come from Spyderco. Hey, you want to try out, you know, 4V, you want to try out Crewwear, you want to try out S90V, M3, whatever steel you want to try out, you can probably find a Spyderco that is sporting that. K390, you got it. So that's what where I would say number 1. Number 2 is, I think they're excellent cutting tools. Like I said, I don't like the look of the Paramilitary 2, but I recognize that it is just an outstanding tool for cutting. And ultimately, that's what a knife does, right? It's a tool that we use for cutting. And you have to recognize that sometimes tools are not beautiful, right? You have a good wrench, and you're not going to say, hey, that's a beautiful wrench. You know, it's a tool. Now, a lot of us like our tools to be beautiful, right? I think this tool is more beautiful than that tool. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Spyderco does really well is that they're excellent cutting tools. Now, I don't understand why Spyderco went away. See, these are 2 older models, and I think you can maybe find the Domino in the red carbon fibers in some places, but it's discontinued, and it's because it's one of the rare frame blocks. I don't think you can find a lot of Spyderco frame blocks these days, and it's a frame block with a flipper, and the action's really good, and it's one of my favorite Spydercos, and I'm so sad that they discontinued the Domino. I think this is an excellent knife. You know, it has a lot of good characteristics that I like. You know, the slicey blades that you get in a lot of the other ones, but you get the action from a frame lock and a flipper, and I prefer flippers over the middle finger flicking. I don't know if you've seen, but I've failed a couple of times at deploying these. I'm just not very good at it. So I prefer deploying with a flipper. Now this one, it's also, I think you can also find it, you know, in remote areas of the internet. But this is the Rootcon 2. It's a carry design, and this is also a liner lock, but it's also a flipper, and I enjoy it very much. Now, I think what Spyderco does very well also is that their knives, you know, if you take a knife like the Max, the Para 3 or the Para 2, okay, you take one of those and chances are you're going to be able to customize it to your heart's desire. Okay, this is how this knife came out of the box. This is the Knife Joy exclusive of the Paramilitary 2. But this one is the Blade HQ Tanto exclusive. I think it's the only time they've done a different blade shape for the Para 2. But you can get, this is aftermarket carbon fiber scales from Flytanium. This is aftermarket hardware from Blades We Love. And because they are knives that are, you know, liked by so many people, you're gonna find that if you want to change the scales to titanium, you want to change your hardware, you're gonna use micarta, carbon fiber, whatever you want, you're gonna be able to customize your knife to be whatever you want it to be. So I think that's also a large positive of Spyderco. Now, without a doubt in my mind, the iconic knife in the Spyderco lineup is the Para 2, the original one. So this one's kind of a newer version of it, and it's not so, because it's only a Blade HQ exclusive. Oh, this is an M4, by the way, which, you know, again, steals. But the iconic knife in the lineup is the Paramilitary 2. You could make the argument for the Para 3, but I think the Para 2 is probably, if I had to choose one, I'd go with the Para 2. And it's for a reason. The ergonomics of this knife, whether you choke up or whether you're back here, are excellent. It is an excellent cutting tool. The full flat grind that tapers, you know, to a really fine point is just an excellent cutting tool. And I think, you know, you had a Mount Rushmore of knives. I think probably the Para 2 has a spot in that Mount Rushmore of knives. But if you wanted to get into Spyderco, that's not the one that I would recommend. I am a fan of the Manix 2. I think the ergonomics are just a little bit better. Okay, they're similar, as you can tell, but not quite the same. I think the size of the Manix 2 is a little bit better. I like the blade shape, and I like the lines, the aesthetics of the Manix 2. And I also like the ball bearing center lock that the Manix has. Because the Para 2, it has, they call it a compression lock, but all it is a liner lock with the lock in the back side of the blade. And to me, what happens is when you disengage the lock, you know, and it comes here, my finger hits the blade. And let me see if it's a little clearer here. You see where the blade is? When it hits my finger when it's coming back, and it doesn't quite close. So I struggle a little bit with the, you know, it requires a little bit of a, and as you can see, I'm not very good at spider flicking. But I think if you wanted to get into, if you have a Benchmade, right? If you have something like the Benchmade Bug Out, right? Which has the access lock. Well, the locking mechanism of the Manic is very similar to that. And I think it's, if you wanted to get into it and you didn't want to go full Spyderco with a Para 2, I think a good starter knife is the Manix 2. So guys, if you have any questions, any comments, I would love to hear from you. This is the Spyderco brand overview. If you enjoyed it, if you think I've earned it, like, subscribe, and until I see you again, take care.